Welcome to another session of Fridays with Father, and thank you to the people who gave me some topics to talk about, because I'm not exactly sure what you want to hear, and so a person asked me to talk about how is God with us when things aren't going quite so well, so God in a time of darkness. And during these times, we want to look for sure answers, or be completely assured that God is with us. And it's at those times when we can be most vulnerable and feel most alone. And so naturally, during the time of darkness or difficulty or problems in our lives, we can think God's not with us. And that's a natural temptation for us as human beings. When things are going well, we're thankful to God for the blessings that we have. And then when things are not going so well, we can start to doubt and we can start to have questions. And it's at those times when we really need to focus and ask, is there some indication that God is with us in these difficult and dark times? And I would say that there's always something there to remind us of God's presence, but the most important thing is to look for it and recognize it when it does come. And will sure answers always come to us? Well, it's never really that way. We are called to have faith. We're called to believe. And belief doesn't mean that all the T's have been crossed and all the I's have been dotted, and therefore everything's perfect. Well, you know, things are not always perfect. And so we're not going to always find sure answers. The challenge that we have each and every day is to be people of faith, is to focus on God's promises of the past, that He will always be with us, even when it seems He is farthest away from us. So when we look around our world, there's a lot of darkness, there's a lot of difficulty and challenge. There's a lot of violence, and all kinds of things go wrong each and every day. There's all kinds of natural disasters, and what do the insurance people call that? They call it an act of God. And so the thing is, if a natural disaster happens, people think, well, God must be punishing me. And I've heard that from a number of different people. I've gone to the hospital to anoint people, and people have told me, I don't know what I did to deserve this. And my response always is, you probably have done nothing to deserve this. This is part of the human condition, is that we have bodies that are weak. We have a world that's going to have natural disasters from time to time. There's going to be some difficulty in our world. Nothing is ever going to be perfect. And so what we really have to do is, in those difficult times, to remember indeed that the Lord Jesus is with us, has promised to be with us, and will continue to be with us until the end of the age. I remember talking with a Jewish friend of mine who told me that after World War II, there were a lot of Jewish people who finally said, that's it, I'm not living this faith anymore, because they really felt that God had forsaken them because of the Holocaust. And think about it, millions of Jewish people killed in the Holocaust. It would be very difficult not to have those doubts and have those questions. But there certainly were a whole lot of other people as well who said, well, you know what? Yes, this world is imperfect. People are evil. But God is always with us, and we have to be the people who stand against that evil so that the evil doesn't triumph in the world. Viktor Frankl, who wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning, lived in concentration camps during World War II. And he said the people who were able to make it out and thrive after being released were people who held on to their faith and said that, yes, even in this dark, awful place, God is with us, binding us together. And it's something that the Nazis could never take away from them. They could take their lives, but could never take away from them the fact that they were indeed God's people who were suffering at this point in time. And even in their suffering, God could be with them. More recently, I think of 9/11. That is an event which will be on people's minds and in people's hearts for years and years and years to come. And so we really can feel forsaken, maybe pushed to the side by God. And I remember even after 9/11, that next Sunday, people came to church in droves. It was amazing how many people came to mourn the people who had died in that horrible day. But 1 week later, our crowds went back to normal. It's so easy to forget. It's so easy to forget that God's with us. It's so easy to forget that we have to stick together, not just one time after 9/11, but for always. And we always have to be people who are ready to live God's faith, even in the times when it tests us tremendously. And so it kind of disheartened me to a certain extent, but it's our nature to honor those who have died, and then, unfortunately, to forget them for a while. And so we pray that we can always be people who remember that God is with us in those difficult times, but continues to be with us. And we have to continually regard God's presence as an important part of our lives, not just after a great tragedy. The difficulty is that God doesn't miraculously change everything that happens in our society so that we won't suffer at all. Suffering indeed is part of our human condition. We are weak people. Our bodies are weak as well. And that's one thing we know, is that our health can change very, very quickly on the turn of a dime. And so we always have to be people who remember that God is with us always when we are well and also when we are sick. And it may be difficult when we're suffering maybe from cancer, or we have a heart attack, or someone that we love has a disease or a heart attack or a stroke or something like that. And it's easy to say, well, God's not watching out for me. God is watching out for us. He's present when we are suffering. He's present when we're going through difficulty. But once again, he doesn't automatically knock all suffering out of our way so that we live forever untrammeled by the condition of our world. We are going to suffer, but at the same time, we can be consoled in our suffering by the God who loves us, and also too by the people who are around us, people of faith who reach out to us in our need. That is always one thing that really inspires me. There are so many people who, when they see someone who is suffering, when they see someone who's going through a difficult time, they will reach out. And I think that's really God's presence working through them to reach out to those who are in need. Those are the angelic people, the angels of our world, who are saying, yes, you may be going through a difficult time right now, but here I am. I'm present for you. Inspired by God, I am here with you to walk with you and help you shoulder the burden that you carry right now. And that's not easy, because we would rather have somebody completely take away our suffering or our pain, but that's not the condition of this world. And we are always people who will go through some time of pain and suffering in our lives. But we can look to the people around us to give us hope and consolation in difficult times. And so good can overcome the evil. Good can surround the evil thing that happens to us and can quench it and can knock it out, because so many people are responding that now there's an overwhelming force of good that comes in the midst of an evil situation. So people often help in disastrous times. We read about so many different organizations in our world, Doctors Without Borders, Catholic Relief Services, so many organizations that seek to spread good in the world when there's evil that is happening around us. And I think that really is God's response to a difficult situation, to the evil that we might be that we might be experiencing at one time. God is always with us, and that has to be really our focus when we're in difficulty. However, Cardinal Bernardine, I remember in his book, The Gift of Peace, said, "Pray now while you are well, because when you're sick, it's practically impossible to do it." Because when you're sick, you're focused on your illness. You're focused on trying to get your affairs in order. You're trying to figure out who's going to take care of the kids or the dog or whoever. But the most important thing is to pray when you're well, asking God to be with you, asking God also for humility, to face the trials and the difficulties of life with some joy, and then also to uniting with the church, uniting with our brothers and sisters in faith to pray together each Sunday, asking God's grace and God's love for each and every day of our lives. But so many people reach out in disastrous times, and that really is God's response to the evil that happens around us. So when we look through the eyes of faith at the difficulties and the challenges of life, we can go first of all to the Bible. So look at, first of all, the book of Job. Job is an upright man. He's living well. He's a good person. So in the estimation of the world, there should be nothing that goes wrong with Job's life. Because our idea is if you're living a good life, then, you shouldn't really be suffering all that much. Well, then what happens? The devil touches Job's life and changes it completely. And he loses his land. He loses all of his animals. He loses his sons and daughters in a horrible accident. And it's like a bad country song. All kinds of bad things are happening to him all at one time. It's horrible. And then, to top it all off, he himself, in his body, has sores from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. And in the midst of all of that suffering, all of that difficulty, what does he say? The Lord gives, the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. So he has his life and he's happy with it. He was happy with his life when things were going really well. He's happy now even when things are going horribly, horribly wrong for him. And I'm not sure if I would have that same faith if I were in Job's situation. Would any of us, really? If something goes really bad, would we say, yeah, blessed be the name of the Lord, even though someone near and dear to me has cancer, or someone near and dear to me lost his or her job, or had someone die suddenly in the family. But Job is able to say, you know what? God is with us in the good times and in the bad times. God is with us always until the end of the age. He promises that to us. So even when bad things happen, we can say God is with us. And eventually God will see us through to the other side when that suffering finally ends. And so God, at the end of the book of Job, says to him, Job, you don't understand. You're not clued in to how the world completely works. Were you there when I created the world? Were you there when I did miraculous things for your people? And so Job, of course, has to say very honestly, well, no, I wasn't there. Right, the reason you weren't there is because you're not God, Job. You can't control everything. And that is hard for us to say, because in our society we do like to control things, and we want to control things. We like to know that we have some control over our health, over our job situation, over our money situation, over anything in our lives. We want to have control, and giving that up is not easy. The most faith-filled statement we can say is, Lord, I let go of all this and I put it in your hands. And that's not easy to do, because we are accustomed to kind of holding on to control and power, when in fact we realize that we really don't have control and power over much in our lives. Essentially, God is in control, and we have to let him take over the control of our lives, and that's not an easy thing to do. Jesus also certainly suffered in his life. He suffers, first of all, even when he's born. Think about it. Joseph and Mary have to travel to Bethlehem. They don't have a birth at home where everything's nice and comfortable. They have to go someplace else. They go to Bethlehem, in vain, trying to find a place for their first child to be born. And they have to go to a stable. What a horrible place to go and have a baby there. So once again, they're not in control, but they're willing to say, Lord, I'll go where you lead me. And that's not an easy thing to do. Jesus suffered at the beginning of his life, suffered certainly during his ministry as well. He preached to the crowds, and many, many people followed him. But there were a lot of people who did not and spoke bad things about him. Pharisees, the Sadducees, were reporting him to Rome all the time. And so he was constantly at odds with them. And so Jesus had some darkness in his life. Even though so many people are accepting his message, there's a core group of very powerful people who don't want to hear his message at all. And then, of course, what happens? They finally take him into captivity, ready to crucify him. And he wants that cup to pass him by. Remember the words in the Garden of Gethsemane, Lord, let this cup pass from me, but not my will, but yours be done. Are we willing to say that? To say, God, I trust you, even when things aren't going my way. I know you'll be with me, but please make my life a little bit better. And that doesn't happen for Jesus at the end. He's arrested, he's beaten, he is crucified, and he dies. But even though he is on the cross, even though he has been forsaken by humanity, still he is able to say, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. And so his gift, really, his gift of forgiveness is given even in the most difficult times of his life. And so we too are called to that same showing of forgiveness when things don't go our way. Instead of once again trying to control the situation, Jesus forgives the people who are persecuting him, doesn't call down hellfire on them, but actually forgives them for what they are doing. But Jesus suffered and he died. But what is the most important part of the story? He rises once again. So Jesus is not exempt from suffering. Jesus is not exempt from death and disappointment. But he does rise. And so it's the same way with us. We are going to suffer. We're going to have disappointment. We're going to have difficulty. Look at Jesus' life. Jesus' life essentially is our life as well. But he rises, and we rise too. Eventually, we find our way out of the difficulty, and we come into a new time of joy, a new time of resurrection. Jesus' apostles knew that same story as well. The apostles, after Jesus' death, they go out into the world. Jesus sends them into the world, and now they are going to do the ministry of Jesus. They're going to heal, and they're going to preach. And I'm sure at the beginning they thought, this will be great. Nobody could possibly oppose us now. The one who was dead, Jesus, is now risen from the dead. My gosh, what more proof do we need for this? But still, they are opposed. Still, they are thrown into jail. They are beaten. St. Paul says the same thing. And the apostles tell those who would follow Jesus that, yes, you're going to have suffering and you're going to have difficulty in your life. But remember that resurrection. That's the most important thing. So there are a few notes at the end here. First of all, we can forget that God is with us in the hard times of our lives. That is the time when we have to remind ourselves even more so that God is with me, God is sustaining me. And even though this situation that I'm in is pretty awful, I know that God eventually will see me through from suffering and death to resurrection to new life. There can be so much temptation to despair, to say, well, that's it, we're just done. That's it, we're not going to do this anymore. It's just not worth it. That temptation comes from the evil one. And so that temptation to despair is deep within us when things go wrong. But we can never despair. We always have to say, okay, things are tough now, but things will get better because God is with me. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And so we can always remain hopeful. We can always say that, yes, God is with us and things are tough now, but things will get better. And so we remember that God's faith, or our faith in God is strong, but God's faith in us is strong as well. He will be with us. He never wanders away. He forms a covenant with his people and never strays from that, even though the people many times walk away from their relationship with God. So we pray this morning that in our times of darkness, no matter what they may be, that we can always remember that God is with us, that He'll sustain us. He'll give us new life and new hope. And if this morning you are in some difficult situation, if you're struggling with something, pray that God will show some way of getting through it, maybe with a person around you, or maybe with some words, or maybe in your prayer. Remember that God will show His face to you. You will have suffering and difficulty. Yes, that is true. But at the same time, God will be with you always until the end of time. God bless you and have a great day.